Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, one little last college basketball topic before we get out of here. And I will say this. It is kind of one of the more interesting kind of back channel stories in all of college basketball over the last couple weeks. And it is the ongoing saga of Shaedon Sharpe. A saga that we finally got a resolution to on Monday. But before I kind of tell you what happened, let me give you a little bit of backstory on this kid, Shaedon Sharpe, what happened over the last couple days, what's really happened over the last couple months. Because in terms of college basketball, it has a major impact on this current season as well as potentially the next one as well, 2022-2023. And the backstory on Shaedon Sharpe is pretty straightforward. He was the number one rated high school player in the high school class of 2022. So the current kids that are seniors in high school right now, he was the number one high school basketball player in America. And in about, mid to late November, maybe early December, we find out that he has decided to enroll at Kentucky for the spring semester. At the time, the intention is he's going to come, he's going to train, he's going to get better against really good players, almost like what a high school quarterback or a high school football player does, enrolling in January for the spring semester, get ready, play spring football, and then get ready to play the following fall. That was the plan, that was the intention, get him to Kentucky, have him compete against higher levels of competition. And then we find out, oh, by the way, once he gets to Kentucky about 2 weeks ago, oh, wait a second now. Because of his birthday and because of where he graduated and how he graduated from high school, he's actually eligible for the 2022 NBA draft. Now, I was telling you all along that was going to happen, so I hate to brag, but if you listen to this podcast, I told you from day one he was going to be eligible, never kind of backed off of that. But it kind of turned into this almost impossible situation for John Calipari over the last month because on the one hand, let me put it this way. It's an almost impossible situation because you're awesome on the court, you're winning a bunch of games, but you also have a potential top 5 pick, which is this kid sitting on your bench. And what makes it extra interesting is it's not just that he enrolled, it's not just that he's sitting on your bench, but that, oh, by the way, if you don't play him, there is a chance that he can now leave for the NBA without playing a single minute in your program, and you're losing a potential top 5 pick without playing him a single second. And so it's been this weird back and forth publicly. John Calipari, when the kid gets to campus, oh, he's not ready. He needs to get in shape. He's not quite there. He's this, he's that, he's whatever. The fans are chanting at games, including a road game at Kansas, "We want Shaedon, dun, 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 we want Shaedon." So it's this weird thing where every single time Calipari has media availability, he's asked about it. Every single time that Kentucky plays a game, he's hearing about it. And so we finally got a resolution on Monday as John Calipari announced that Shaedon Sharpe will not, in fact, play college basketball this year, okay? He announced that this was the plan all along. Of course, he told us that was the plan, 5-6 weeks ago, and he's been saying that the kid might play ever since. But John Calipari says that Shaedon Sharpe will not play, and as of right now, the plan is still, he didn't say as of right now, but the plan is still he will be back in 2022-2023 to lead the Kentucky Wildcats. What I would say is 2 things. One, now I'm not sure that I totally buy he's going to be back for 2022-2023. But what I also believe is that this is actually the right decision for this kid and for the Kentucky basketball program as a whole. Now, in terms of why I think there was this weird public back and forth, listen, what I would say, I have no super inside information on this, but let me explain quickly what I think happened and then why I think it's actually beneficial for both the player and Kentucky basketball. What I'm guessing happened is this. Whenever he decided to reclassify, it was pretty much understood he is not going to play. But then through back channels, and by the way, the first report came out about 2-3 weeks ago that the kid was going to be draft eligible. But long before that, it seems like just about everybody had an idea that the possibility existed. And so I think when he decides to reclassify, my guess would be that there's an understanding the kid isn't going to play this year. But if there's a circumstance where he comes in And he's so much better than everybody else that it's, one, hurting the team not to play him, and two, you can play him and it's going to help the team and help his draft stock and kind of highlight his abilities. Then we'll go ahead and play him. And so probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, the plan all along was probably, we're not going to play him, but if he comes in and he's so much better and he shouldn't even be in college next year and he's going to push us to another level, then we probably got to consider playing him. Instead, he probably is like most freshmen are the first few weeks of college basketball. Oh, by the way, most freshmen aren't stepping in the middle of a season in conference play, and everybody kind of realizes, you know what, he's not quite ready yet. Let's hold on. Let's pump the brakes, and let's go ahead and say that he's not playing at all this year. Now, in terms of the good and the bad of this decision, as I said a minute ago, I think this was the right decision for both the kid and for the team as a whole, and let me explain why. And as I do, I want to take a kind of a phrase from another sport that I kind of think about when I think about this Shaedon Sharpe deal, right? About a week, 2 weeks ago, I'm doing a podcast, the Hot and Cold podcast, which is a Kentucky, Indiana college basketball podcast. And the guys there, Sam and Connor, who host that show, they do a great job. They asked me, they said, do you think Shaedon Sharpe should play? And the analogy that I used is, remember, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago in football, in the NFL, kind of before the kind of new age passing offenses and all these passes all over the field, there used to be an old saying from kind of old school football guys that, you run the ball because if you pass the ball, there's only 3 things that can happen, and 2 of them are bad. I know we got a lot of high school football coaches that listen. I know we got a lot of former high school, maybe college football players that listen. Remember that phrase? Your high school coach told you back, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you throw the ball, Aaron, and I wasn't a quarterback, I wasn't that good. If you throw the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. And I kind of think that's kind of the case with this Shaedon Sharpe deal, right? So when you think about the Shaedon Sharpe deal, I think there are 3 things that could have happened if you decided to play him, and 2 of them are bad. Let's start with the good. I'm a glasses half full guy, positive vibes only. Let's start with the good of the Shaedon Sharpe situation. The good is he shows up and he's awesome. He probably is awesome, but let's say he shows up and he's awesome. Then you go ahead, you put him in the lineup, and you take an already good team, a team that is currently ranked in the top 5 nationally, and it takes them to another level. That's the best case scenario. He's really awesome. He plays like a top 5 pick, and he takes a team that's already a top 5 team to the next level. But here's the problem with that. Is that really even a best case scenario? Think about that. That's the best case scenario. He's really awesome, and he steps into a team that's already awesome and takes him to another level. That sounds like a best case scenario, but I'm not sure that it is. Because here's why it's not the best case scenario. Because it's not the best case scenario because if he comes in and he plays well, then he's definitely leaving. At least right now, there's the possibility that he comes back. Now, I'm not sure that he is coming back, but there's at least that possibility that he could come back. And so that's the best case scenario. He takes a team to another level, but even then, if he plays really well, he's leaving, and it doesn't guarantee a national championship. But that's the best case scenario, and here's the reason why I don't even think it's a best case scenario besides what I've talked about. This team's already good enough to win a national championship. And so when you start to look at why this could potentially be a bad thing, remember I said 1 good thing could happen, but 2 bad things could happen. Well, here's the bad thing that could happen. You have a team right now on February, whatever it is, 8th that I'm recording here, that's already good enough to win a national championship. I think they're the best team in college basketball. Now, we'll find out. We'll see what happens over the course of the season. There's going to be peaks and flows, ebbs and valleys, whatever. Peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows. I messed that up, but you get the point. There's going to be peaks, but right now, I think you can argue that Kentucky is one of the, at worst, 2 or 3 best teams in the country and maybe the best team in college basketball. And what's especially interesting about this Kentucky team is all of the pieces fit together. I know some of you aren't Kentucky fans, but let me just spend 2 seconds breaking down the depth chart. You have a traditional true point guard in Severe Wheeler that is one of the top 5 point guards in the country in assists. You have a player that is a combo guard that can handle the ball but play off the ball, Ty Washington, who's playing like an NBA lottery pick. You have a 5th-year senior, Kellen Grady, who plays off the ball, is the SEC's leading three-point shooter. And you have Davion Mintz coming off the bench, who has been awesome the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. So let me ask you a question. As talented as Shaedon Sharpe is, where exactly does he fit into all that? Because you have arguably the SEC's best point guard, a lottery pick combo guard, arguably the SEC's best shooter, and arguably the SEC's probably the best sixth man in the SEC outside of Tari Eason at LSU. Where does Shaedon Sharpe fit in, and how does playing him impact the rest of the roster? Now, again, if the team was struggling, if there was injuries, if there was a suspension, if there was an academic, that's different. But right now, this team is firing on all cylinders after they just won at Alabama the other night. And so to me, I just don't see the scenario where you put this guy in, now you got to play him. How good is he with the ball not in his hands? You already have two guys that kind of sort of need the ball in their hands, and Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler. Now you add another guy? Now that's less minutes for Kellen Grady. That's less minutes for Davion Mintz. That's less minutes for the best point guard in the SEC and Severe Wheeler. And if you play Shaedon Sharpe, it kind of messes up the chemistry, and I think it probably ultimately does more harm than good. Now, that's not to say the kid's a bad kid. He's a bad person. He's going to ruin everything. But it is a reality. Basketball's a team game, and as the old cliche goes, and as boring as the cliche is, it's true. There's only one ball. There's only one ball to go around. And so I think when I talk about there's one good possibility and two bad ones, there's the team aspect of it, and then there's also the player aspect of it. I think it's pretty clear at this point that the kid probably could hold his own in college basketball, but that throwing him to the Wolves right now is not what's best for him at this specific moment. If he was that good, that much better than everybody else, he'd be playing. The fact that he is not playing is a sign that he would probably be a very serviceable college basketball player right now, but he wouldn't be Paolo Banchero stepping in day one. Look at Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren got to Gonzaga in April, May, whenever it was, and really the last 2 weeks is really when he started to hit his stride. And so if you play him and he's not ready, that's the other part of this as well. Now you're potentially hurting his draft stock. Now potentially he has to come back because he has no choice. Now potentially he plays so bad you screwed him over by playing him that he considers transferring. I'm not saying it would happen. But you think if he comes in and he's the 6th or 7th man and he's playing 8-10 minutes a game, you think there aren't people trying to get on the phone with him saying, hey, you could come here, we'll play you right away. This is the world that we live in with the one-time transfer rule. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just reality, and you have to factor in all those things. And so to me, I think Kentucky made the right decision by deciding not to play Shaedon Sharpe. And again, listen, let's be honest. I mean, there's always the possibility that it could be reconsidered if something disastrous happens. I'm not even going to weigh those possibilities because of the fact that that'd be bad to even talk about. Right now, Kentucky is good enough to win the national championship, maybe the best team in college basketball, to be honest. And I think they'd be making a grave mistake by deciding to play Shaedon Sharpe.